to see a boundary spanner. She is a neuroscientist, she's a teacher, she's a cartoonist. I mean, she is a lot of things. But one of the things that I think is really important is being a boundary spanner. And we're gonna see her live on the field as she demonstrates on an exhibit that she's hosting. So we're on our way from Providence all the way to Boston, okay? That's an hour from now. I will see you there in a little bit, all right? So we made it. We're now here with us with our esteemed Caroline Hu. And I told you, so she's a boundary spanner, okay? So she's gonna tell us about her project. Caroline, this is awesome.
Hi, well, thanks so much for making it to my opening here. So I've been the artist in residence at Industry Lab here in Cambridge, Massachusetts for the past 4 months. And I got to choose the topic of my residency. And the only thing I was really asked to do was to do something that involved the community here. So let me walk you through what I've done in the past 4 months. The topic I chose was metamorphosis. So I have a background as a biologist. And I am both fascinated by biological metamorphosis, like literal metamorphosis, as well as metamorphosis as a metaphor for growing up, which we all do. So the first thing I did was I was working on a graphic novel that is about metamorphosis, and it centers on this little cicada character here. Cicadas, the North American cicadas, some of them have to wait 17 years to actually finish and reach adulthood. And so this character, rather than wait underground for 17 years, which is typical of her species, decides to actually go out and start interviewing other animals and ask them, what is metamorphosis like? And so I have here, her microphone is made out of mycelium, which is like the roots of fungus. And I also made a microphone here, also out of mycelium, just for fun, really. So I had to grow it, shape it, and bake it. And so that's this here.
So Caroline, your residency, you were compiling all this work together. So the comics, so the zines, comics,
yes,
and the bio art installation.
All together.
Okay.
All the metamorphosis.
Okay.
Yes. So let me show you now the second half of the work. So the other thing that I did was I wanted to have a community engagement project, right? And so what I did was I interviewed people who work at this co-working building about growing up. Was it a gradual process? Were there certain events that really kicked off a lot of growth for you? And I recorded all of them and I studied those transcripts. Yeah. At the same time, I was also going through scientific literature and finding examples of metamorphosis. And there's so many more animals that go through metamorphosis than I appreciated before. The classic examples are like frogs, butterfly, but crabs, for example. Right. There's all sorts of marine worms and slugs that go through metamorphosis, and other amphibians as well. So I compiled a bunch of those animals, and I started to compare the trajectories of these animals' lives with the interview transcripts I had from people.
Oh, I
and
see.
so I brought that together.
So these are the zines, right?
This is the zine, where now you see each animal is now framed by quotes. And those quotes actually come from a person who works in this building. Okay. There's nothing personally identifying, which has also been fun because there have been people who work here who've been reading this and they're just like, I think I know who this is. And so it's a combination of both the biology, because I also describe a little bit about the actual life cycle of the animal, and I think a lot of the emotion comes from the quotes. Yeah. Some of them are pretty funny, and then some of them are like pretty sad. Like some of these interviews, like there are tears on both sides of the table. So it was a really powerful thing. I feel really grateful that people were willing to be so vulnerable with this wacky biologist that showed up, who wanted to make comics. So
that's awesome. So this is open to the public. This whole
This is not open to the public.
Okay.
This is it's going to be up for a month, and then it's
okay.
appointment only.
Okay.
There will be a closing reception,
Okay.
and that will also be open. And the last thing I want to show you is this make-a-zine, take-a-zine station.
Okay.
So a zine is a small booklet of words and pictures. And here's just an example one where you can take, single piece of paper, and with a little bit of folding magic, and you make one cut, you can turn it into, I swear I'm good at this, you can turn it into a little booklet, right? So what a way to just get some thoughts across. 10 cents, someone has, you just communicated with somebody, right? And so I made a template zine that unfortunately they're all gone, which is unfortunately, actually, they're all gone. But here are some examples that people have made where the question is, fill out a little story about a metamorphosis. It can be your own, it can be a fictional character, it can be a pair of corduroy pants, which is what happened here. And so people are encouraged to depict beginning form, mention a sensory memory perhaps, and then draw the path that life went through. So that's something that hopefully people will, it seems like people fill them out and then they can take them home, or they can just leave them here and someone else can read about it.
Tell us why. Why do you do this? What's the inspiration? Where does inspiration come from?
For this work, I would say I found myself wanting to be a science educator who reached out to middle grade, young adult audiences. And I myself was going through this massive transformation from being a bench scientist to now a practicing artist. And so it kind of just naturally fell into place that, like, why don't I make stories, why don't I make zines and comics about biological transformations? Perhaps the most dramatic and famous ones of all, metamorphosis.
And we were talking offline earlier that this is open for the month, and people can reserve spots or an appointment with you, right, to reserve a spot. So who do you hope actually will be able to come to this event?
I hope that I would love for some younger people to come through here, maybe some people who are actually still not quite started in their own metamorphosis to come here and think about all the aspirations, right, for their own lives and what might happen. I would also love people to come in here who maybe their interest is actually in comics, but now that they've seen what a well biology can be for narratives, maybe they'll be a little more interested.
Yeah, and exactly. So, out for the month, guys, you should come.